Hi, everybody. So today, for attendance purposes, you'll notice there's no Socrative, and the assignment that I have for you, you should be able to finish in 40 minutes, but just in case it takes you a few extra minutes for attendance today, you're just going to click on this discussion post and make a comment showing me that you watched this video and you understand what you're doing for class today. So now that we've gone through and we've done the Constitution scavenger hunt worksheet, I'm going to spend the next few days with you going over the amendments. There's 27 of them, and we're going to talk just a little bit more about the Constitution, like I said, so we can have that background and information in what we were doing, so we can use that in further discussions when we start to talk about a lot of the issues at hand. So I'm going to open the PowerPoint. You can see it above there, but we're going to walk through it here, so that's fine. So the Constitution, written a super long time ago, back in the 1700s, and yet it is still today in 2020 the most powerful law document that this nation has. Every single law that exists must be in line with the Constitution, or else that law is considered invalid. So you can see from the New York State standards here, the Constitution includes a clearly defined, well, clearly is, I guess, a interesting word to use because it's not always super clear. Clearly defined and intentional rigorous process for changing an amendment or changing the Constitution, adding an amendment. This process requires state and federal participation and allows the Constitution to evolve and change. So we're going to talk a little bit about how they can change the Constitution. It's over a 200-year-old document, so everything that was written then doesn't necessarily make sense for today. There's still some very good things that we follow that are in it, but this is debated all of the time. Amendments that should be passed, amendments that shouldn't. So an amendment is just a change to the Constitution. So these are for adding notes to your notebook. This is probably enough right here. That's all the notes you're going to take today. But at the same time, I would shorthand it. You don't have to write all of that out. So Article 5 of the Constitution describes how an amendment can become part of the Constitution. There are two ways, only one has ever been used before. So basically, our founding fathers were smart. They realized that in the late 1700s, when they were writing this, that life was going to change. I don't know if they knew iPhones would happen. Probably didn't know coronavirus it was going to happen and that we'd be able to watch this on a laptop. But they didn't know life was going to change. Therefore, the Constitution had to be a document that could be changed in order to keep up with the times. So, all 27 amendments that have been ratified by two-thirds vote of the House and Senate. So two-thirds of both houses of Congress must approve it and then send it to the states for a vote. Then three-fourths of the states must affirm or basically say they accept that proposed amendment. The other method of passing an amendment requires a constitutional convention to be called by two-thirds of the legislators for the states, and then that constitution can propose as many as they want, and that must be approved by three-fourths of the states. That's never happened before. Basically, all 27 amendments that have been ratified to the Constitution have gone through the House of Representatives and passed with at least two-thirds vote, gone to the Senate, passed with at least two-thirds vote, and then at least three-fourths of the states have agreed with that amendment, therefore it becomes a law. This second one has never been used before. Excuse me, I don't know if it'll ever be used. If this second one were to happen, it would probably be a major change to our country, our constitution, and way of life, because you can propose as many as you want at one time. So I think our country would have to be in a lot of turmoil in order for something like that to happen. Here is the actual wording for Article 5 that talks about how the amendment should go through. It's not necessary to write that down, and if you want to read through it on your own, but just know that basically the only way that it's ever been done before is it's been two-thirds in the House of Representatives, two-thirds approved in the Senate, and after it passes in both houses of Congress, it goes to the states, and at least three-fourths need to again, agree to that amendment in order to get it passed. Now, keep in mind, the number of votes needed has changed over time because as states get added, were added throughout history, the number of senators is going to increase, and also the number that you need to have three-fourths of the states is going to increase. And then the question is it too easy, too hard to add an amendment? If anything, I think too hard, but that's probably a good thing. If you're talking about the most important, high standing document in your entire country's history, you should probably make it pretty difficult to change, and it is still today. But because of that, it also slows down progress a little bit. So If you go down here and click on Constitution and Bill of Rights overview, it's going to open this page right here that we're going to go over. So the U.S. Constitution has 7 main articles and then 27 amendments added from the end of the 1700s all the way through current times. So basically what the Constitution does is defines the powers of Congress, the House of Representatives and Senate, which is the legislative branch of the government. It establishes the United States is going to have a president that oversees the country and defines what that is. That's the executive branch. Thirdly, it establishes and defines what the court system does, and that's why we have the judicial branch and the Supreme Court. It defines what state laws are and basically gives some power to the states. It explains Article 5, which we just went over, how to add an amendment or change it. Define the Constitution as the highest law in the country, and so basically saying every single law that has been passed since the beginning of our Constitution must be in accordance with the Constitution. It can't violate that. And basically, the last part is to explain what it would take to ratify the original document. 9 of the 13 colonies had to agree with it, and that happened, so it was created. The rest of the Constitution is created by amendments. An amendment is change or addition to the Constitution. The first 10 amendments are known the Bill of Rights. They were agreed upon very soon after the Constitution was written. These establish individual liberties or freedoms that we know have today, such as freedom of speech, religion, the right to bear arms, and all of these other ones we're going to go through. So we're going to go through these pretty quickly because these are ones that you should have heard before, gone over in U.S. history class, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So I just gave you a list right here. Freedom of speech is the First Amendment. Press, religion, assembly, petition. You're allowed to do all of those things. Yet at the same time, all of these do have limits on them. And throughout this class, we're going to debate what the limits of those are. What happens when the government, says, hey, that isn't covered under freedom of speech anymore and you can be punished, and what freedom of speech actually means, because we do not actually have freedom of speech in this country to the extent on what it sounds, and we'll talk about that why. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms or own guns. 3, pretty outdated, but the government can't lodge troops in private homes. Basically, during the time of England ruling over the American colonies, or before they became, the United States, soldiers could just come into your house and you'd have to feed them, give them a place to stay, and so forth. So that was important to them. Fourth Amendment, we're going to talk a lot about. You can only search somebody's person's car, house, if you have a warrant from a judge or a couple other things. Amendment 5 basically it guarantees your right to due process and protects you from having to self-incriminate yourself. And also you cannot be tried twice, which is why O.J. Simpson was able to write a book, If I Did It, This Is How I Would Have Done It, and not get punished and go to jail for it, even though it explains how he allegedly killed his ex-wife. Amendment 6 guarantees a fair and speedy trial. So you're not, locked in jail for so long, thrown away without it. Jury trial in civil cases. So basically, if you have a disagreement with somebody about money or a business or anything like that, you can try them in civil court, which isn't criminal. You won't go to jail, but it's usually for some type of damages. Number 8 is no cruel or unusual punishment or unreasonable bail. We'll talk about if that really is the case. In a lot of places around the United States, the death penalty is still used, and there's an ongoing debate on whether the death penalty is cruel or unusual punishment. Same thing with like solitary confinement and some other things we'll talk about. Amendment 9, they realized that not every single thing in the Constitution or every single thing that people needed would be in the Constitution. So they said basically anything we forgot, people have rights not listed in the Constitution. And Amendment 10, powers not given to the federal or national government belong to the states and people. They were scared of kings because they had just broken away from a king. So the states wanted to make sure that they still kept a reasonable amount of power for themselves. So 10 amendments, this is your little cheat sheet for it, broken down fairly simple. Now for amendments 11 through 19, you're going to click this assignment. And usually I do this with a gallery walk. So in the hallways or around the room, I post these posters and it has factual information about amendments 11 through 19. But obviously, because COVID, we're not going to be able to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up this paper, and again, it's under Tuesday, the amendments to the Constitution, and you're going to use these posters as a Word document and go through and respond to the questions about amendments 11 through 19. You can just delete the lines and type in whatever you want, and then you're going to submit it on the assignment that's under Tuesday. So if you open this, the actual worksheet is right here. These are the questions, and you submit it right here. And down here is the gallery walk information. So you won't need Google or anything. All the information you need is going to be right here. You'll submit that, and you're done for the day. If you have any questions, let me know. Make sure you complete the Schoology post for attendance so I mark you here, and message me with any questions. Have a nice Tuesday.